Indy 500 coverage is brought to you by the members of the DL 500 Club. Click the link in the description, join today, and get exclusive content.
Welcome back to a slightly damp, not quite soggy Indianapolis Motor Speedway. My God, more rain than I can remember in a month of May in many, many, many years. I can't even remember the last time there was this much rain interruption at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The racing gods are not happy. I can't imagine what that could be about. I don't know. Maybe there's a discussion to be had in the comments section. A very eventful day here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Not as much rain interruption, thankfully, today. Of the 8 hours, most of the practice was actually run under the green flag today. But the interruptions that we did see, unfortunately, involved two fairly comprehensive accidents involving two Swedish drivers. The first is Linus Lundqvist, driving for Chip Ganassi Racing. Got on the curb on the inside of turn number 2, got loose, got the back end into the wall, spun down into the inside wall, and then came to a rest. Linus was okay, seen and released from the medical center. The race car itself is repairable, but he did not make any other laps today. And hopefully, everybody's hoping that there will be laps tomorrow, but we're not so sure about that. The major incident of the day, and really kind of a shock and surprise, was 2022 Indianapolis 500 champion Marcus Ericsson. Again, a car getting onto the curbs, getting loose. This time, Marcus Ericsson spinning into the wall in turn 4. Heavy impact. Then into the inside wall, and then into the pit attenuator. We haven't seen a crash like that in quite a while. Marcus Ericsson, thankfully, out of the car, okay. However, that chassis has sustained enough damage that Andretti Global is going to a backup car for Marcus Ericsson. And that is a significant issue for Marcus. There's no doubt about it. In fact, for Linus as well, although I think it's definitely a lot less worrisome for Chip Ganassi Racing to continue to use their primary chassis versus Andretti Autosports using the backup chassis. Number one, Linus actually has the fastest 4-lap average of any car or driver today. I think Linus, from his interview earlier that we did with him and his driving out there, I think he's been very, very mature and methodical and has the right attitude and has been driving very well here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think if you were looking for someone to be a top rookie, Kyle Larson aside, right? Linus has been it up until this point. Now, the question, of course, is going to be, can he recover mentally from it? Will he be able to go back out whenever we get back to track running in that same car that he crashed? He knows why he crashed. He got on the curb, and be able to continue to show that speed, show that pace, show that maturity. I think he will be able to. You think back to Alex Palou, I think is the best example, because Alex had a crash very similar to that in the same corner a couple of years ago, and Alex is one of the perennial contenders here at the Speedway. Hasn't yet won the race, but I think anyone would be foolish to say anything about Alex Palou that is negative in terms of a driving talent that he is and the ability for him to overcome mental challenges. Marcus Ericsson. Now, I think back to a flip that Colton Herta had here on Carb Day a couple of years ago. Colton had to go to a backup car, and at least at the time, the Andretti backup car did not have the pace that the primary car did. Colton had already qualified for the race, so he didn't have to worry about having to qualify a backup car. It might have been an issue had he had to do it. Limited practice running, I remember, for Colton. I think he only got... he crashed in Carb Day, so he didn't even get a chance to shake the car down. So maybe a similar situation with Marcus Ericsson, depending on how the weather goes. There's the question mark of how much practice anybody is going to get with the qualifying boost that is supposed to come in tomorrow. If Marcus Ericsson doesn't have his car sorted either by Friday or Saturday morning, then you're starting to talk about, is he a potential driver that is going to come into issues where he could be in that last row shootout? I don't think he will be, but you never know what the equipment is going to handle and how well prepared the backup cars are to go over 230, let's say 231 miles an hour is probably going to be a safe speed based on previous years. Can a backup car do that? And so that's going to be the question for Marcus Ericsson. He's really going to prove his mettle as a champion of this great race if he can overcome this obstacle, that's for sure. So outside of that, let's take a look at the results as they were overall. That includes drafting, but we will also look at the top 6 in the no-toe speeds from earlier today. So today it was Pato Award at 228.8 miles an hour. No cars in the 229 mile per hour bracket. Scott McLaughlin second. He's been fast all week long at 227 miles per hour. Alex Palou, the perennial contender, as I mentioned earlier, in third. Colton Herta, who, spoiler alert, is top of the no-toe charts. In fourth place, those Andretti Global cars look very, very strong. Joseph Newgarden, defending winner, at 226 miles an hour in fifth. Marco Andretti, again, up there in the toe charts, 226.5 miles an hour. He's working with Craig Hampson once again, so he's a happy camper. You'll hear from him later. Linus Lundqvist, despite the fact that he crashed very early on in practice and did not come back out, is 7th on the board at 226 miles an hour. Like I mentioned, fastest 4-lap average of any of the 34 drivers here went to Linus Lundqvist. Ed Carpenter, always fast in qualifying here, in 8th spot. Will Power in 9th. Team Penske looks revitalized, both in race trim and in qualifying trim. Scott Dixon in P10, no big speeds from him today. Connor Daly for Dreyer Reinbold with Cusick Motorsports right behind him in 11th. Callum Ilott for McLaren in 12th. Helio Castroneves, another driver who I think has a really, really great shot come next Sunday, is in 13th. Ryan Hunter-Reay in 14th. Marcus Armstrong, who was lower down the order in terms of the no-toe speed, so something perhaps to watch later on. Romain Grosjean in 16th. Alexander Rossi, who had a pretty close moment early on in practice with Romain Grosjean, ironically enough. Marcus Ericsson, forget the speed that car did. That car won't be coming back. So 224 miles an hour for a wrecked race car for Marcus Ericsson. That's the story of his tale. Felix Rosenqvist was the only Swede who turned laps today who didn't crash at 224 miles an hour. Kyle Kirkwood, that's a deceptively far down the board time for Kyle Kirkwood, and you'll see in just a minute. Rinus VeeKay is always fast here at the Speedway, but just hasn't put together a race. AJ Foyt Racing, this is a storyline. They are a little bit out to lunch right now. It's kind of surprising. The speed that they showed last year hasn't reared its head yet. They are searching right now. Santino Ferrucci, 22nd on the board. 23rd is Takuma Sato, who's pretty much only been focused on qualifying setup so far. Catherine Legg in 24th. Kyle Larson in 25th. Again, deceptive because that speed, 222.8, was what he could do without a toe. Augustine Canapino just behind him. Graham Rahal, again, deceptive. You'll see why here in a second. Kiffin Simpson is the last of the drivers who scored a no-toe time today. Tom Blomqvist in Helio Castroneves' 2021 winning chassis. Christian Lundgaard, unfortunately, down towards the bottom of the board. Pietro Fittipaldi, good in no-toe, not so good with a toe. Christian Rasmussen at 221. Nolan Siegel, who has struggled, it has to be said. He might be one of the drivers we're worried about on the bubble, as is Stingray Robb, which is hard again to believe. The AJ Foyt Racing team struggling for speed. Colton Herta tops the no-toe charts today at 224.1 miles an hour. And just scrolling back up in my chart here, that would have put him in the 20th spot overall, just by himself, which is pretty spectacular considering about 10 miles an hour you can find out there with a good toe. Kyle Kirkwood in second on the no-toe charts, 223.3. Helio Castroneves in third. Graham Rahal in fourth on the no-toe charts. That's significant because that means the Rahal cars are better in qualifying than they were last year. Rinus VeeKay behind, that's not a surprise, and neither is Scott McLaughlin with his performance this month. So I had a great interview with Marco Andretti today. You can check out my Twitter if you want to see me ask him about his Tom Brady roast appearance. But he gave me a really, really good answer when I brought up the fact that Craig Hampson has returned to Andretti Global this year and is helping out Marco. Craig Hampson joining the team. Speak about him just real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to get him. I tried to not have him be gone so long from our team, and we missed that one contract, and I was really disappointed with some of the higher-ups at our team for missing that contract, but we got him back, and it's so cool. Like, for example, like, there's so much knowledge actually between the two of us and experience here that it's kind of just, it's just been a good match. But, like, you know, we'll sit down and I'll read the plan, and it's more like, it's like, yeah. We don't even talk. It's like, it's just, we know what what we want to do, and so it works out pretty awesome. But another example was yesterday. I went out and felt a change on the apron. I said I felt it, so we don't have to mess around with time because of rain and stuff. And he goes, your grandfather said that back in the day that he. So my example that I'm trying to make is he's worked with all the Andrettis and stuff, and I said nobody believes me that I feel a change on the apron, and he goes, I do. He goes, your grandfather used to say the same thing, so it's pretty cool.
And of course, a lot of the other drivers in the bullpen today talked about qualifying, talked about their expectations. Let's hear from them.
It was hard to know what it was going to be like before I drove, but I feel like yesterday I actually got really comfortable and I kind of got in the middle of those packs and I was like, okay, this is okay. I don't feel super out of place or uncomfortable, and overall I'm happy with how the car feels and my comfort level in all of the different kind of race situations. So it's definitely nerve-wracking, but once you get out there, it's still a race car. And no, I haven't done an oval this big, but I've done ovals, I've driven race cars, and ultimately it's the same principles, right?
I felt pretty good. It's been, kind of a slow start to the whole thing with the open test being rain delayed and then opening day. So even though yesterday was a shortened day, still it ended up feeling like a long day just with how condensed everything else had been. But I was pretty happy with where we started. We got a decent amount of work done yesterday. At times in the day I thought we were really good. At other times I thought we were just okay. So we just got to zero in a little bit on conditions and track temps and whatnot. But I thought the whole team had a good start.
The car was good. We went through some pretty big ticket items on setup changes yesterday, so we pushed back to the garage. We had an issue with one. We had to go back again, and then the rain and everything else. So it was kind of a choppy day, but I was happy that the car had, inherent speed in it to where it could tow up to a group in front and things like that. So we have quite a bit more work we need to do today in combination with trying to get some qual sims in and stuff like that. So, all in all, it's still early, it feels really early. Only 40 laps in yesterday, maybe 42 or something like that. So we have quite a bit more work to do today.
I mean, we were happy with the car yesterday, so learned that we were happy is really the main thing. Glad to see that we rolled back out with a car that's competitive, especially in traffic. Honestly, compared to last year, our lap speeds and tows are greater than what we were able to do last year, so that's positive, I think. It's definitely not negative.
I mean, we're going to do some qual trims, and then I think we'll go right into race running once we have a balance check on that downforce, and we still have to improve the car a little bit for traffic running, but I'm pretty happy so far.
Do you feel a little bit more confident in this equipment than you did last year?
I mean, a little bit, right? Like, I have a little bit of experience from last year, but it's still a year since I've been in the car. These guys are in the car week in, week out. I felt pretty good yesterday by myself, but we're dealing with a lot of understeer in traffic, so I need to get that dialed out so I feel comfortable to run up on, without getting washed. And then obviously there's all the auxiliary things like pit in, pit out, and all the things that they do weekly. And I'm so used to having a big old GT car around me, and I'm like stopping in the middle of the board, not on the tire, and all the systems are different. And when you've programmed your brain to do something one way for like the last decade, and then you ask it to switch, it's actually harder than just doing it for the first time and learning it over. So I feel somewhat confident, and I keep telling myself that I feel confident, but there's still a learning curve involved.
We just have to kind of get through a lot of small things that all these teams got through at Sebring in January. You know what I mean? Small bits and pieces that are new, electrical things, just tiny things that are just kind of annoying. It's not the fault of the team, but we just haven't run the car since May of last year. So there's a lot of small things that we've had to get through. The car is definitely, super comfortable to drive. It's just we're just got to take it one step at a time. We did 40 laps yesterday. I wish we did 140, but we had to make some big changes, and we run out of time. So, today we're going to have to be super efficient, get as many laps in as possible, and get as many changes in as possible, because I do believe that we got ourselves closer, but we need a few more pieces for sure, and I think we can get there. It's just a matter of time. We just need time.
Yeah, I mean, We're not too far from home at the moment. You know, yesterday we made a few changes that were a little bit better, but overall not very different to our race car last year. Obviously, there's still a lot of track evolution, a lot of progression to come. So I think there's a good chance that it'll probably change, but so far I'm happy, and we just need to keep doing that, following the track and trying to stay on top of that with the changes that we choose.
As you've come to expect in these videos, we have a history segment. And there's so much talk about the double, NASCAR, IndyCar, but I think there's another double that not a lot of people talk about, and it's the double of the two greatest races in the world, the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the Indianapolis 500. And there are 4 drivers in today's field to do something that only one other driver has done in the past, and that is win both of those races. And who is that driver? You're about to find out. 2 drivers have won both the Indianapolis 500 and the Le Mans 24 Hours overall, but only one has managed to do it in the same year. And that driver, appropriately, was none other than Anthony Joseph Foyt Jr., who outlasted Parnelli Jones in the Radical STP Turbine and threaded his way through a last corner pileup to take a dramatic 3rd Indianapolis 500 win in 1967. Amazingly, only a few days later, the grand champion was piloting a Mark IV Ford GT at 220 miles per hour down the tree-lined Mulsanne Straight. Paired with Dan Gurney, Ford's dream effort ended with the Gurney Foyt GT winning in convincing fashion. AJ would never return to Le Mans after this victory, but Gurney would never win at Indianapolis, though he came close with back-to-back second-place efforts in '68 and '69. Gurney did, however, start an international motorsports tradition after he sprayed champagne in Victory Lane at Le Mans. Graham Hill would become the second driver to conquer both Indianapolis and Le Mans in 1972, winning overall with Matra, pairing with Henri Pescarolo. Of course, Hill won Indianapolis in 1966, and thus it's a little less impressive than AJ. AJ's amazing historical distinction was nearly equaled in 1996 of all years, when Davy Jones finished a close second to Buddy Lazier at Indianapolis, and then proceeded to win Le Mans overall, paired with Manuel Reuter and Alexander Wurz in a Yost Porsche. In recent years, doing the Le Mans Indy double has been a bit more of a rarity. In 2012, Sebastian Bourdais raced for Pescarolo Sport in the unique Dome S 2.5 LMP. Ben Hanley and his team Dragon Speed qualified for both Indianapolis and Le Mans in 2019 and were supposed to be joined in that feat by Fernando Alonso, but Alonso failed to qualify at Indianapolis. But that was okay in the end because Fred went on to win that year's Le Mans for Toyota. Scott Dixon became the first driver in 5 years to race both Indianapolis and compete at Le Mans in the top class. This year, he'll be joined by 3 other IndyCar drivers, Alex Palou, who will join him at Cadillac Racing, Callum Ilott, who drives for McLaren this month, will be returning to his full-time job in Jota Sports Porsche 963, and Juncos Hollinger Racing's Romain Grosjean will drive in the brand-new Lamborghini SC63. And if any of them can triumph at Indy, they can step onto a pedestal only one other has stepped onto: victory at the world's 2 biggest races in the same year. Okay, so final thoughts. I mentioned a lot of it in the results, but I'll kind of give it here as well. I think the coin cars don't look quite as fast as I would like them to. They were unfortunately a part of that last row shootout last year. I think they're unfortunately going to be a part of it again. It's interesting that 2 of the Ganassi cars, namely Kiffin Simpson and Marcus Armstrong, seem to be kind of around that area. The AJ Foyt cars, which, you know, shock of shocks. I think everybody expected that setup would just work for them again, and for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to be doing that. And the ultimate irony, I think, is the partnership with Penske Racing, which, you know, everybody would have thought would have, sent Foyt to the stratosphere, hasn't done that. But what it has done looks like it's put Penske right where they've always expected to be. So, you know, I don't know if that's totally what's going on, but it sure seems that way. But that also doesn't explain why Foyt has fallen off the way that they have. I mean, we'll see when they put the boost to the cars, whenever we see that. The weather itself is going to play a major, major factor in that. So there's so many unknowns because there's just been so little running, relatively speaking, to what we're used to expecting here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think many of the same cars look good in traffic that have in the past. Andretti and Penske have been doing the lion's share of the running, and Andretti also includes Meyer Shank Racing. So you're looking at drivers like Helio Castroneves, looking at Kyle Kirkwood, looking at Colton Herta, and then I think Scott McLaughlin has a really, really good shot this year. I think this is his best shot ever at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So there's a lot of things that are that will continue to unravel as we go through this month. But looking at the 10-day forecast, which is either likely or unlikely, it looks like the Mother Nature is going to continue to wreak havoc on this month of May here in Indianapolis. So we'll just have to wait and see. But if this day was anything to go off of, the intensity level is only going to continue to rise. So we'll be here. We'll be covering it. We'll give you the best stuff. I'll say on the internet, why not, for the Indianapolis 500. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube, and I will see you in the next video where it's hopefully not raining for Fast Friday, but I suspect it will be.